Hello, welcome back. I'm Miniature Mike, and today I'm doing something a little different. Instead of doing something Star Wars miniatures related, I thought it would be fun to do a tier list just on the Star Wars media that we've gotten over the years, starting with the original movie in 1977. A lot of people have done this, so I figured I'd do mine. I don't know, it's probably not going to be too controversial, maybe a little bit, maybe not, but I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on all these different projects, on these different movies we've had and shows. Um, and we'll see what I do. I haven't prepared anything, so it's just going to be kind of off on a whim. So we'll see. Let's get started. So for A New Hope, I'm going to put it in A tier. I think obviously it started everything. It's great. It's so much fun. It's got that 70s cheesy campiness a little bit to it sometimes, of course. But I think it does a great job at like just kind of setting up kind of where we're at, the universe of Star Wars. And obviously it's uh, revolutionary movie for a lot of reasons anyway. So, but for me, I like a lot of other things a little bit more than it for sure. But I also have to acknowledge that it's a solidly A tier movie. For me, like most people would say, Empire Strikes Back is number one. The thing I like about Empire Strikes Back and the reason why I think it's the most important Star Wars movie is if you have A New Hope, it's the starting point for Star Wars. And for me, Empire Strikes Back was kind of that arrow that set the direction of what Star Wars was going to be, like where it was going to go, what the lore was going to be like, what we could expect from this franchise. And while in The New Hopes is kind of like, okay, this is where we go, this is where we started. Empire Strikes Back was that arrow, which I think is super important. I think it does it super well. It's a fun movie, great movie. When I was a kid, it actually wasn't my favorite. I thought the middle act was really boring. I like the beginning and the end, but as you get older, you appreciate kind of all the stuff going on. It's great. For me, Return of the Jedi. Well, I'll shake these around. I'm going to put it A tier just above this. So, Return of the Jedi is my family's favorite movie, and it's really, really good. It's a lot of fun. There's certain aspects of it that maybe like aren't quite S tier, which is totally fine. At the end of this, I might actually bump it up to S tier. We'll see. I'm just trying to be. I don't want to put everything in S tier or everything in D tier or whatever. So we'll take a look. Oh, I need to put in a one more thing below. Add row below because I need to have an F tier just in case. Always good to be safe. And then I'm gonna say this one is not watched. That's you can't see that. Okay. Um, Phantom Menace. So for me, I think it's B. I know, and part of the reason is I grew up with it. So I grew up with the prequel trilogy. I recognize that they have issues with stiff dialogue and stiff acting, but I love the world they set up. It's fun, personally, and as a kid, I'm biased. So I also recognize it's not the greatest thing ever, but Phantom Menace has a lot of fun things going on. It is a weird movie in the fact that there isn't exactly one main character, protagonist, like one main character. There's a lot of different main characters, and the story is kind of odd how the progression goes. And it has its controversial stuff with I don't know kid Anakin. Like maybe in the past it would have made more sense if Anakin was like a 15 or 16-year-old teenager. Then a lot of things would have made more sense. It is what it is, and for me, it's a lot of fun. Attack of the Clones. I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. So I've always struggled, and as much as I kind of look at this movie with nostalgia and kind of rose-colored glasses, and there are aspects of it that I like. I appreciate how pioneering it was with a lot of the visual effects and so forth. It's it's pretty rough. Like the dialogue and the like they're trying to set up the romance for Padme and Anakin, and it just doesn't work very well. It's so cringy, but being a prequel movie, there's something about it that I just appreciate. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Um, as a kid, the Battle Geonosis was the coolest thing ever. It was so awesome. I remember being in theaters when Yoda pulled his lightsaber out and everyone went wild, and it was so cool. I might bump it up to C tier. We'll see. It kind of depends on how some of these other things turn out. But geez, it's kind of a chore working through this movie sometimes. So I'll be nice. I'll bump it to C tier, but I might bring it back down. We'll see. For me, Revenge of the Sith, I'm gonna put it in S tier personally. Yeah, it has some of the issues that the other prequels have, um, but I think it does everything the best for sure. It's great the way they transition into the Empire and Anakin into Darth Vader. It's a little rushed how he does Anakin to Darth Vader, kind of just from the movie's perspective. And this movie might be the most memed movie ever, which is also great. It's incredible how many memes came from Revenge of the Sith. It's awesome. When I was a kid, I might even say something like this, but I have to keep the order the way it is right now. But yeah, I love Revenge of the Sith. Great movie, lots of fun. Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This is going to be really tricky because Mandalorian I see is in one. Oh, that's going to be tricky. Okay, Star Wars: The Clone Wars TV show. I'm going to put it in A tier. I know most of you would say S tier, but for me, I didn't grow up. Actually, didn't grow up watching the Clone Wars, so I don't have as much nostalgia. I didn't watch the Clone Wars TV show until much later after it had come out. I'd seen a little bits and pieces of it there, but for some reason, like I didn't have the channel growing up, so I didn't watch it. But it's fun. It's a great show that gets better and better as it moves on. The last season's great. But for me, the only thing that holds it back sometimes is like even though I do like the mini arcs, it can sort of feel like there's a lack of focus in terms of the overall plot sort of leading to certain things, which is fine. It's totally fine. But it's just you have certain arcs that don't work at all, and that's okay. Some do. So it's a mixed bag, but it's A tier. It's great. The Darth Maul stuff's awesome. The Mandalorian stuff is awesome. They do a great job with this. But for me, I don't know if I can quite put it over the movies, personally. But that's just, we'll see. Maybe I'll move it around. Star Wars Rebels, I'm going to also stick it in A tier. I've had so much fun with this show. I think it's great. Like the Clone Wars, it kind of starts off a little slow, and it gets really interesting and develops a lot as it moves along. So it's a ton of fun. So I think it's pretty good. Let's see here. For me, let's see, what's next? I'm going to try to not be biased about this either, and I'll probably put a lot of stuff in A tier. I'll probably be biased. I can't help it. For me, Force Awakens. So Force Awakens is tricky. In context of the whole, I'm going to try to look at it mostly by itself, in a little bit, how it fits with the rest of the trilogy. I think personally I put Force Awakens in B tier. I'm going to put it below Phantom Menace, purely out of bias. I think objectively, it's a better movie, I think, than Phantom Menace is. Like the way the pacing is, the action, the stuff that they do as well. It is a good movie on its own, but there's things I don't like about it. It's also very much a repeat of A New Hope. So in some ways, that's how I feel. For me, Phantom Menace, the reason it's above it is just purely out of nostalgia. Like, I really like the world it sets up, kind of getting started with the Clone Wars era. And for me, The Force Awakens, the thing that holds it back is I did not like the direction of where the movies went, unfortunately. I feel like they really just kind of fell apart, and that holds it back. If that hadn't happened, I might put it up in A tier, but since it did, I'm going to do low B tier. But on its own, Force Awakens is a great movie. Just don't think about what happens next. So, Rogue One, I really like Rogue One a lot. I can see myself going back and rewatching this movie all the time. I'm not going to put it over these three. I think it's still A tier, not S tier. I'm going to put it right here, though. I like it more than A New Hope. It's fun. It's such a fun movie. It's just a great Star Wars story. Probably the best spin-off that they ever produced. It's a good one. Don't want to get too much into it, but yeah, it's fun. The Last Jedi for me is D tier. I know a lot of people will say it's F tier. I know some people will say it's one of the most fresh and interesting new movies they've made. My opinion on it is, when I saw it in theaters, I initially had a lot of fun with the movie. Initially, I did not like the a few things. Initially, I didn't like the Canto Bight stuff. I thought it didn't make sense to me. It felt like a pointless side quest. And then I always thought the lasers arcing in space just was so strange. And they inserted a lot of Marvel humor too. So even when I first saw it, there were things that didn't quite work. But overall, I did originally appreciate a lot of the interesting new direction they went in. But at the end of the day, it really feels like a rehash of Empire Strikes Back. It really does. There's so many things that are it's like Empire Strikes Back, but with the throne room scene, and other people have said the same thing. But it's all those things, plus a lot of kind of like those last second, oh, just kidding, check this out, or this is this, this is a surprise. That happens quite often. Yeah. Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes in the theater initially, like Snoke dying, the stuff with Luke was like, oh wow, like it kind of like initially gets you, but after time has gone by, this movie does not fit at all. And I'm really based on how I like the Legends Star Wars. You know, this is a Star Wars minis channel, and I really like the stories of Luke Skywalker and all those characters, Luke, Leia, post Return of the Jedi, because they're awesome. I love what they do with the characters. I love how they're acting as mentors for some of the newer characters, their children. But in this movie, in the next movie, they really just kind of shatter all that, which is a huge bummer to me. Because Luke Skywalker in canon is he's nowhere near as interesting or cool or exciting, and he's nowhere near as something you can look up to as he became. Unfortunately, in Legends, he is Grandmaster Luke Skywalker. Like he's on a roll, but I Last Jedi, it's not an F for me because there's certain aspects of it where I'm like, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but there's also a lot of things that you're just shake your head, didn't work. Solo is a B movie. Yeah, I'll put it right in B. That sounds fine. I'll put the bottom of B tier. It's fun. I had a lot of fun with this movie. It's solid. It's not a world beater. It's a good adventure. I think all the actors do a great job. A couple of aspects of the movie are a little annoying. Not too many. Like I'm not a huge fan of the droid character. I think she can be a little over the top, but it's not that big a deal. Lando's great. It's a little funny how they go out of their way to explain every detail about Han Solo that you didn't even maybe want to know or care to know, but whatever. But it's fun. It's a fun movie. Good time. I like it. I haven't seen this. I haven't heard great reviews about it. I heard meh, but I haven't checked it out. Um, this next one's going to be really hard for me because when it comes to The Mandalorian, seasons 1 and 2 for me are like right there. I thoroughly had fun, so much fun with seasons 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian. I thought the end of season 2 was a great either transition or kind of ending place for either the show or the main story. But unfortunately, season 3 just was to me kind of a train wreck. It didn't work for me. I didn't like how they brought Grogu back, especially in a different show. It was just so convoluted and clunky, watered down. It didn't work. So, um, oh man, if I was grading this, can I like duplicate this? Okay, if I'm grading this off of, um, if I'm grading this off of just seasons 1 and 2, it's gonna be up here. But since if I include season 3, I'm gonna have to probably bump it down here or something like that, because season 3 is just it doesn't work for me. So, how am I gonna do this? I think Mandalorian. I think I enjoy these shows more after season 3, including season 3. But without season 3, I like these ones more. I'll put the Mandalorian. I'll just drop it at the bottom of A tier. Again, without just seasons 1 and 2, for me it is right up there. To me, it's so much fun. But including season 3, I'll just put it at the bottom of A tier. It kind of knocks it down a little bit, unfortunately. Rise of Skywalker. I hate this movie. If you like it, great. I hope you enjoy it. But this is one of the few movies where I saw it in theaters, and as I was watching the movie, I was just shaking my head like, what am I watching? This doesn't make any sense. This is incoherent. This isn't fun. It was just so lazy. So lazy. And you could tell, just watching, you could tell a lot of that stuff was going on in the production. Like it was kind of a rush to do things. So, and that behind the scenes, there was a lot of issues. And unfortunately, when Rise of Skywalker came out, the sequel trilogy doesn't feel very cohesive. But I'm not going to say it's all horrible, but The Rise of Skywalker to me just wasn't. I don't like the movie at all. I think it's awful. Bad Batch, B tier. I'll put it right above Solo. No, I'll put it above Force Awakens. That sounds fine. It's a fun show. I've had a lot of fun with it. It's similar to Clone Wars, same animation, follows some of the same stories. It's great. It's a lot of fun. I don't love it as much as the other animated shows, because there are definitely some episodes in the first 2 seasons where it's just so repetitive. Omega is the one really calling all the shots. She'll just kind of pout about something, and she gets her way, whatever. But either way, it's a fun show. Great, really good characters. They did a good job developing the characters. There's stakes. People characters, things happen to characters that are they have to live with, and I think it's awesome that they are kind of bold enough with that. So I think Bad Batch, I put it in a B tier. Book of Boba Fett was wow. I'm gonna put it bottom of D tier personally. So I really liked the Mandalorian episodes for the most part, quite a bit in the Book of Boba Fett. So that's episodes 5 and 6. But the actual Boba Fett stuff, sometimes it was interesting, and sometimes it was hard because it came after seasons 1 and 2 of Mandalorian, and those were so much fun. And then the Book of Boba Fett came out, and I'm watching, and I'm like, I want to think and I want to believe it's as fun as that. But there's just so many things that I was just shaking my head like, nah, this isn't working for me. So unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of it. I didn't like the end, how they brought in Grogu. Unfortunately, Cad Bane's whole thing was so rushed, especially for people who don't know the Clone Wars. I think the actor is awesome. I would have loved this show to be, more dark and intense, maybe like Andor or something. It doesn't have to be like it, but it can have that tone. And I prefer Boba Fett. He doesn't have to be such a good guy. I'm okay if he can be like an anti-hero sort of, meaning like he's still kind of taking care of himself. Like he's honorable in Mandalorian season 2, because Boba Fett in his Mandalorian season 2 is great. I really like him in Mandalorian season 2. He's honorable, but he's not like a good guy necessarily. But I'm okay if he was more of a he didn't work out. So Kenobi, boy, I'm gonna have to put this one down here. I think I liked it even less. Oh man, there's just a lot of stuff in. For me, the thing that killed Kenobi was the writing of the story. It was just, it didn't make any sense. It didn't work for me. It didn't make any sense. Like, I like the character. I like the person who played young Leia. I just didn't really like what they did with her. Unfortunately, I think they really didn't do the Reva character very well. She just didn't work out. I think they could have made her really interesting, but she takes too much of the show. And there's also like a lot of production things that bother me. Like, so much of the show is just so dark. It's so hard to see. Like, all the lightsaber fights are like crazy dark. I miss the days when you could have lightsaber fights in the broad daylight, and then the VFX people would just make the lightsabers be just brilliant light, even if it's not as accurate. But they could still do some really cool stuff with that. But now all the lightsaber fights have to be in the dark. So for me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I actually like Book of Boba Fett more than Kenobi, honestly, because there are entire episodes of the show that I like more. But and I still put Last Jedi above them. Maybe that's a sin, but whatever. Obi-Wan Kenobi, it didn't work for me. I'm gonna put Andor up here. I really, really like this. I'm not gonna put it above these because I'll have to put these two above it. But Andor was so fun. Like, every single episode that came out, even the slower episodes, you're just engaged. I'm excited. I want to know what's next. The payoff, so the third episode of each arc was always just such a massive payoff. Like, I was always looking forward to it. It was so much fun. The intrigue is awesome. I'm really, really looking forward to season 2. I'm mostly bummed, actually, that we're only getting 2 seasons of this. I wish we could have like 4 seasons. Like, each year is like a year leading up to Rogue One, but unfortunately that didn't get greenlit originally. I think they originally thought about 5 seasons, but they just did 2. So hopefully this is a good one. But Andor was great. It's such a good, well-written show. It feels more sci-fi than space opera, because Star Wars has always been like space fantasy. But anyway, Tales of the Jedi was fine. Yeah, I don't know. Sure, I'll put it right around here. It was okay. It was fun. Like, there's some arcs I like, some I didn't as much. I'm gonna put Tales of the Empire actually down there a little bit. Yeah, some arcs I liked. I liked the Count Dooku one. I didn't care for the Ahsoka one at all. Tales of the Empire. I didn't care at all about the. Sheesh, I've already forgotten her name. The one girl who hangs out with Thrawn a little bit. Yeah, the Night Sister person. I liked Barris's arc, but it was so short. I would have loved to have seen more, it fleshed out more, but it was fine. I haven't seen Young Jedi Adventures. Ahsoka, for me, is top of C tier. Yeah, for me, Ahsoka's a tricky one, because there are aspects of the show I really liked. And there's also aspects of the show, like, for me, I really liked the middle episodes. I liked episodes like 4 and 5, and I think 6, but I didn't like episodes 7 and 8. And the first couple of episodes were a little rocky, a little stiff for me personally. I liked what they did with Anakin. I thought Hayden did a great job. It was fun. But I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag. Thrawn's all right. It's cool they got the voice actor from Rebels, but he still doesn't quite feel like the Thrawn that I read about in Heir to the Empire. And then I'm gonna put Acolyte at the bottom of this. Actually, I'll put it at the bottom. I'll put Rise of Skywalker, Blue Acolyte. I watched Acolyte. I wanted to give it a chance, and there were aspects of the show that I was like, "This isn't that bad. It's okay." But when I got to the finale for me just kind of cemented a lot of things or confirmed a lot of things about the show that did not work for me. I know they're trying to show the Jedi is kind of like corrupt. I don't like the way in which they did that because the Jedi in the prequels, they weren't necessarily corrupt as like, they're trying to cover up necessarily all this like crime and all these insane things that were going on. Um, they were just really, they're just kind of more arrogant. They're like, oh, like the Sith aren't going to come back. Like we got this. Oh, you weren't prepared, and they did. So I appreciate that the prequels do that. So, and there's also a lot of strange. Personally, there's a lot of strange ways that they explored kind of the gray area. They try to explain the gray area. They make the Sith kind of look like the good guys. I know they're trying to do that, but there's also a lot of like writing things in there that I didn't appreciate as well. I don't know. It wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't like it very much towards the end. I liked the lightsaber combat. I thought it was the best lightsaber combat that Disney's ever done, which is impressive because the lightsaber fights in the movies 7, 8, 9 weren't very good, in my opinion. But the Acolyte, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go on the internet and rage about the Acolyte like a lot of people, but it just, for me, it really, really fell flat. And at the very end, I just kind of had this sinking feeling after the finale where I was like, oh man, that's not Star Wars. That's not my kind of Star Wars, at least. So anyway, we're all done. So I assume a lot of you will agree, maybe, and I assume a lot of you will disagree with this list. I'm curious where you would put yours, what your thoughts are on some of these as well. Yeah, I'd say for the most part, I enjoy most of these Star Wars projects. Some a little bit more than others, some less, and some I really just don't like at all. Some I haven't watched, but I'd say most of the community that I've talked to or been aware of would probably have a list somewhat similar. Maybe switch some things around. Maybe have Last Jedi higher. Maybe Phantom lower. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, please please subscribe, and I'd love for you to comment and let me know what you think about this particular tier list. So anyway, have a good one. I'll see you next time.